What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched episode 24 of season 1 of Delicious in Dungeon, the finale. It's over, season's over, and I'm absolutely devastated. But we found out that they have renewed it for season 2, so we are getting a continuation of this story, and I am very happy with that. Although it is Netflix, so I feel like, if it's been guaranteed, it's probably going to happen sooner than later. So
yeah, I'm hoping it's earlier in 2026, but a lot of stuff getting announced right now is coming out in 2026. So.
Yeah, well, we'll wait. But last episode. So we'll be talking full spoilers ahead, obviously. So you've been warned, and we'll do a real quick recap. A lot of things happened in this episode. Basically, they were still in their weird changeling form. They're walking along, discussing how age is going to work, basically, from their previous race to what they are now. And then they end up getting attacked by gargoyles that grab Laios' sword and stab between. It was Marcel and
Chilchuck were
holding hands. And it transformed Kenosuke, fucking Laios' sword, and they're trying to figure out how that worked. They come upon the conclusion that they are basically covered in spores, and if they create a ring just like the mushrooms, it transforms things. So they use this on the gargoyles in a crazy scene where they are just dragging Marcel all over the place, and they end up transforming all the gargoyles into like a stone plate with a face and a peeing statue. And they use, because they don't let anything go to waste in this show, they use the peeing statue to wash off, and they come upon the idea that they need to wash the spores off, basically. That's what's keeping them in their changed form. So they all bathe to get the spores off. They end up changing their dumplings into a variety of dumplings that Chilchuck can't taste the difference of because he's just a human.
That big dumb human.
So, yeah. And then they take a nap. They wake up. They're in their returned form, except for Laios' sword is still changed and has mushrooms growing out of it. And Marcel is real quick to want to see it and tell him to wash it off. So he does that. And then, they come upon a trolley. They end up getting in it. It's descending. They're going down somewhere. As they ride it, they start talking. They start brewing some tea. And they get a little bit of a background on Laios and his sister, how they got into adventuring. Basically, she went on to school. He didn't like the town he was in and went on to join the military. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up didn't click with them either. So he was a deserter. He left, found Fallon at school, and she ran off with him to this island that they're on. And basically, to make money, they start doing what people on this island do to make money, which is dungeon stuff. So, and then they kind of talk a bit about Fallon and how she had a rough time in the town because of how different she was. When he left, she was there for a year still. She ended up going to school, attached herself to Marcel, and so talk about their connections basically. And then, while talking about all of that, they end up through a lot of basically deduction on how the meat worked with the dragon previously. They start discussing a way to basically free Fallon of her hybrid of dragon and her, and they basically say they're going to eat the lower half of her?
Yeah, because in an earlier episode, they related souls to eggs. And, and because Fallon still looks like Fallon and a monster.
She's not fully merged.
Yes, and she related that to bacon and eggs versus like Azumi is like a mixture, and so it's more like an omelet and a little more complicated to separate. So.
Yeah, which was an interesting way to put that, because she is fully like, one of her legs is like normal looking, the other one has fur on it and stuff like that. So she's much more mixed, whereas Fallon is like part.
Still Fallon.
She's attached to it basically. So, they start talking about that they need to eat the dragon part of her, but they don't have enough people, so they need to basically rally people to come have a giant feast of dragon meat. Talking about bringing like Shuro and his people, bring the orcs. Who else did they say? There's another group.
Orcs,
Kabru.
East and Kabru.
Yep. And his group.
They still need more, but they don't realize the elves are coming into the dungeon. So.
Exactly. And we got a brief little glimpse of Shuro, Kabru coming down the stairs with the elves with them. So they're on their way. And
I mentioned the dungeon's changing.
The dungeon is changing, yeah. Which, not a big surprise. It's been changing. It's been in constant change since everything went down. And they just keep descending. So now the plan is that they're going to try and separate Fallon from the dragon, eat the dragon, and have to rally people for that. And there are people already on their way into the dungeon. And the elves that we didn't really get to see a whole lot of, but I assume they'll be a much bigger part of season 2. Mm-hmm. Is there any other major things do you remember from this episode before we jump into
there was a small blip where when they were talking about separating Fallon and like Laios was trying to figure out like what to serve with the dragon part. It showed the Fallon part of Fallon like pick up a mushroom and try to eat it, and then the Mad Mage or Thistle decided to slap it out of her hand and be like, "Don't eat that."
Mm-hmm.
So, so you can tell she's still kind of there.
Because she is like Laios and wants to eat stuff. So, so that's the finale. A lot of it seems like teeing up for season 2.
A lot of setup,
yeah. We got a plan.
Yeah, they went through the whole plan.
Yep.
So
we got a plan. We got some background. We got our team back to normal, basically. Although I was wondering if they're gonna just stay that way for a little bit and use that spore thing to like transform her or something like that, because they had talked about that for a split second of like Laios had this idea of bringing her back up, but she couldn't live in human or normal society in her dragon form, so he wanted to like shrink her body into a different body and then put her in a box, the bottom half or something, in a store. So
dude's kind of dumb.
I don't know, it was a pretty big brain. He was just kind of accepting she's the way she is, and he was trying to find a way to fit her into society. So
maybe I should say he's creative.
Yeah, he's galaxy brain for sure. All right, so thoughts.
It was a fun episode. I especially liked the first half because the animation was just popping.
Crazy.
I loved it. It was a treat to watch. I love, especially because a lot of it was just like, in typical Trigger fashion, a lot of like that really like crazy hyper movement when people were moving. And I just, especially like when they were like twirling around little Marcel.
Or when one of the gargoyles hit the ground and she was spinning out of there.
Yeah,
it was so
crazy.
Trigger looking. Yeah.
So I love that. I could watch that all day. And then just kind of like giving us what's effectively the setup for the next season, which was nice because even if we would have watched this on time and like before the announcement trailer came out, if there was a to be continued at the end as well. So they basically said at the end of the season like there's more, without even having to give us that trailer. So that was really good. It was set up in a good way to also like give us the information of what the second season is even going to be about, and then giving us a little bit of a curveball with the elves obviously coming into the dungeon, and then mentioning even the early floors of the dungeon at this point have changed or are changing. So it's there's not a lot to it outside of that. It was just more so just set up obviously for the next season, but it is very welcome. So
I really liked the episode. Of course, I've liked every single episode of the show so far. It was a good finale too. I was wondering how they're going to end it, because obviously the story's not ready to be finished. So like, how do you end the season in a way that feels like a complete season and still has room to move into the next season? I think they did a really good job on that, honestly, because we got the conclusion of, in a weird way, them getting on the trolley feels like a conclusion of the dungeon they've been in, because they're going deeper without actually having to travel. Yeah, so we don't know where they're going, so that's interesting. And then also the conclusion of their changeling forms. I like that we got some more backstory on Laios and Fallon. It felt like a good time to dive into that before we find out basically their loose plan to free Fallon. And then also an interesting invite to the possibility of more characters getting involved, because they're going to need them. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there's going to be characters we don't even know about possibly in season 2, but Yeah, that was kind of interesting too to hear that they need more people, so we will likely see more people in season 2, even people we thought maybe might not come back. So that was cool. As a finale, I think they did a good job with that. No big set piece, no big fight. We got some really good animation though with the gargoyle fight. This is probably they're like, okay, we got like a finale budget, so let's throw some of that into the one action sequence we have. Which this isn't even really an action show.
Yeah,
it just has decent action when it does happen. And so they, definitely put the time into it, which I really appreciated. Like the animation was really good during that scene. That was a really fun scene as well, though. When they're going against the gargoyles, Laios getting hit in the head a lot, but he can take it because he's a dwarf. So little details like, oh wow, they are actually really strong and sturdy and stuff like that. Konosuke getting turned to a sword. Laios didn't want to change because it was very much his speed. It was similar to when he made. I forgot what it was called, but when Marcel was making those like little animals to
the familiars,
to help Senshi, and when Laios made one, it was just some big badass double-headed dragon thing. He gets a sword, looks like something out of WoW or something, and
or like a heavy metal music video.
He's super into it, and it's just like just stupid. But even the scene before that, though, I thought was a lot of fun. When they were talking about the age thing, and they're like, okay, well, you were this age when you were that, now you're this age, but you're already pretty far along for this, so
sorry, Marcel, you're about to die.
Yeah, you're getting kind of old in this race. And then even the small detail of like some of them were having problems walking across like drains, and other people didn't even notice it because of the size difference. And then the drain ended up becoming a part of the fight because the gargoyle got stuck and they were able to loop around it. A lot of fun little details there. And then the trolley was super interesting because I think this is one of the first times they've come across some kind of technology like that.
It's very steampunky.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too. Senshi was a little more aware of possibly how it worked than everybody else. But in a lot of fantasy, dwarves typically are more technologically savvy than
that kind of tech for sure.
Yeah. Some kind of steampunk, some kind of I don't know if in this world is how it works, but in some other fantasy worlds, it's always the dwarves. Like if you go into like Elder Scrolls or something like that, the dwarves had technology, but they're all gone now. So it's always kind of still there. So kind of reminded me of that. That was kind of interesting. And then the background on Fallon and Laios, very small, but kind of gives us a glimpse of how they even got there and why they're even doing what they're doing. There's no bigger story really that we know. It's just like they're running away, trying to find a living. They start doing it here. Laios is obviously naturally curious, so it kind of works for him. The military didn't work for him. I completely understand that because I don't feel like he would work well in a situation like that.
We've gotten multiple times in the show now where they've kind of expressed that he just has never fit in with people because he's just kind of a little too weird. So.
He's definitely weird. Yeah. And then I'm really excited about season 2, where things are going. That they do have a plan. Because this whole time, I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do when they get to her. They had humored the idea of just killing her because they don't want her hurting other people, basically, which is pretty grim. We don't really want that to happen, but this plan sounds a little more interesting, a little more on brand too for Delicious and Dungeon to just eat their way out of the problem. True. So I was like, okay, I'm on board. This is more their speed.
Yeah.
And then just involving more people. We didn't really get to see a whole lot of the elves in this season, but they're there now. They're in play, and they looked really ominous on the stairs when I looked back at them. So they are playing them up like we don't know if they're going to be good, bad. They're obviously at odds with what they need to get done in this dungeon because they just are like, we need to take care of this dungeon.
Yeah, I would say they just kind of know like the problem's over if we just destroy it.
Yeah. So they're an interesting part of the equation now. So now they're at play, it's interesting to see possibly how this is going to go once they actually get down in the dungeon. And the dungeon's changing completely is also interesting because we basically know the layout, or at least, I've been paying attention of how the floors work, stuff like that. And if it's all different now, it's a whole new dungeon, basically. So that'll be fun for season 2. Overall, really good episode, really good finale. Sad to see it go, but excited to see the next season. And I really liked it. So, so what we do typically at the end of every season, when we finish it, is give it a review. So you want to give it a grade, and why you're giving it that grade?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a solid A. Started off fun and a little bit intriguing, and then they just kept adding a little bit here and there to keep the intrigue going, and that just kind of built stronger and stronger. And then with backstory and then dark elements added later, it just became a very interesting story that I was never ever bored, and I'm just like very invested in this world at this point. So that's good storytelling. So I really appreciate that. Honestly, the animation is just a plus. Like I can watch pretty much any anime. I'll watch some crappy ones too, like visually, but as long as the story's good, I'm there for it. And this just kind of has both, and so I think it's just a solid choice. I also think the blend of comedy that's sprinkled in there is just very well done. So yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, I'm teeter-tottering between two grades, but I want to go too overboard. So I'm going to give it a really strong A. I almost want to give it A+.
It's not over yet.
But it's not over yet. But for the season, season is over. And I think one of my favorite things about it is it started good, ended good, which is important for a season. Sometimes you finish a season, you're like, okay, like I now have to wait for season 2. Like that was just kind of a cliffhanger. And in the past, some animes don't get their next season, so you're just like, oh fuck, okay, I guess it's over. So I think it ended in a really good way. But yeah, I'm gonna go with a really strong A. Really strong. I loved this show. It was interesting to have watched through the whole thing and go like, okay, this is fun, but is this going anywhere? And then finally getting to this point, going like, whoa, it definitely went somewhere. Some of my favorite things about the show is the creativity, how clever it is in its writing, which I did not ever think that was gonna be a thing I would be saying by the end of it. But every episode, I'm just like really pleased with like how deep the lore goes, how creative they get with what they're eating, how they problem solve certain situations. The problems they run into are always creative and different. Every single episode had something I did not expect to happen. The comedy is awesome. I mean, it's definitely a comedy show. Every episode's funny, but they slip in some like more dramatic scenes, more heartfelt scenes. All the characters are awesome. I really like their different archetypes, the different ways they play them out, even when they change, which we saw a couple times. Some weird things happened to the characters that made things different. They even played those really well, which goes into how clever the show is. The action sequences are actually like really good when they do happen, because Trigger has that pedigree behind them already of like being able to animate things really well. We get little flares of it every once in a while. This is the most tame Trigger anime I've seen so far in what they do with their wacky, crazy animation, but it does show itself every once in a while. It's always fun to see that. And yeah, I just love the variety. I mean, in a show where you're going like, are they just gonna go in a dungeon and keep eating? They did that, and there's way more to it than just that as well. But they managed to constantly offer new variety in like scenarios they go through, monsters they run into, and food they make. They just keep making different kinds of food. Even when they're eating dumplings again, they found a way to change those dumplings into other dumplings through mushroom spores. So I'm just like, it's ridiculous, but I love it. And yeah, really good first season. Can't wait for second season. This is definitely one of my favorite animes I've seen in years at this point. So really enjoyed it. Easy A, almost A+. So yeah. Anything else?
I mean, I don't think so. We've already talked about every episode individually in this series. So.
Yep. Great show, great episode, great finale. Can't wait for season 2. Let us know in the comments what did you guys think of this episode. What were some of your favorite parts? Maybe some details we didn't touch on. Let us know in the comments. What did you think about this whole season now that it's over? What would you grade it? Or, if you want to give it like a number rating or something like that, let us know in the comments below. And where do you think things are heading for season 2? Unless you know, please no spoilers. We made it through the whole season without spoilers. We'd like to go into the next season without them as well. I know a lot of people who are manga readers and anime fans are pretty good about not spoiling stuff, so we really appreciate that, as it's more fun to see genuine reactions than going like, ah, shit, that got ruined for me.
Right.
I always feel bad when someone's like, well, this got spoiled for me. I'm like, that sucks. Don't tell me, though. But that sucks for you. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, What'd you think of Delicious in Dungeon in general? Let us know in the comments below. Stay tuned. We got more reviews coming up. Now this season's over. We got other things planned. We're going to continue Demon Slayer, which is almost done. There's 2 episodes left. And then we're going to continue. Kaiju number 8.
Couple episodes left.
Couple episodes of that left. Then we got some other things planned. We got some back burner animes we might watch. We're going to watch Sandland because we never did that. We're likely going to shotgun through it though and do like a season review. Now that's already happened. There's no point in doing episodic reviews. And open to recommendations, suggestions. Let us know in the comments below. But I've been Seth. It's been Chevy. Stay tuned. We got more coming up soon, and we will talk to you then.